I've thrown dozens of parties in my Manhattan penthouse, celebrations for deals closed, promotions earned, milestones met. But this one? This one was supposed to be special. I was about to announce something big. Huge. The culmination of years of grinding on Wall Street. I'd finally secured my own hedge fund, my name would be on the door. Coleman Capital. The crowd was filled with suits, clients, influencers, my closest team, and her. Madison. My wife. The woman I built everything with, or so I thought. She was dressed to kill. Always was. And as the drinks flowed and the laughter echoed, I took the mic. Everyone quieted. I started my speech. This year, we didn't just survive, we dominated. And I owe that to my team, my friends, and most importantly, I looked at her. My wife, Madison. She smiled. But it wasn't warm. Before I could finish, she walked up, took the mic, and laughed into it. "Oh, please," she said. "You owe it all to your ego, Travis. You want to thank me? Try not making me your second priority for once." The room froze. Silence. My heart shattered. She kept going. Joking about how I couldn't close a deal at home and how money couldn't buy class. People laughed nervously. Some left. Others just watched like it was a reality show meltdown. I stood there, speechless. Years of sacrifice, ridiculed. In front of clients. Investors. People who could make or break my future. I didn't fight back. I didn't argue. I just left. But that wasn't the end. Oh no. That was the beginning of something much bigger that I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into the Mandarin Oriental, overlooking Central Park. Quiet. Clean. Cold, just like my mood. I replayed that moment 100 times. Madison humiliating me. In front of potential funders. In front of the media. In front of the very people whose trust I'd spent years earning. I'd built a reputation on confidence and control. That night, she ripped it apart in under 60 seconds. But I wasn't going to lash out. Not publicly. Not yet. I opened my laptop and sent out a simple press release postponing the hedge fund announcement. Restructuring in progress. That bought me time. The next day, I began the real work, not of rebuilding my image, but of unraveling hers. You see, Madison had her own empire, an influencer lifestyle brand built on luxury, relationships, and femininity in finance. Cute, right? She was the face, but I was the one who helped her go viral. I connected her to the networks. The funding. The image consultants. Without me, she was just another pretty face with a credit card she didn't pay herself. And I knew something she didn't. She'd been sloppy. She used our joint accounts to pay for business expenses. That was her first mistake. The second? She made me co-signer on her LLC back when she was starting out. She needed my credit rating. That gave me access. Power. Leverage. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice, with interest. 2 days after the party, I met with my lawyer, Vanessa Liu, sharp as a razor and just as unforgiving. She humiliated you publicly and jeopardized your fund's launch, Vanessa said, scanning the financial records. You want her held accountable, legally or financially? I looked her in the eye. Both. We started with the finances. Madison's brand operated under a glossy image of independence, but behind the scenes, I saw every transaction. Her designer clothes. Business expense. Private chef for her YouTube cooking segments. Billed to our joint card. She even leased an Aston Martin under the company and wrote it off. That gave us our in. Vanessa filed a motion for a forensic audit on our shared accounts. Quietly. Legally. She didn't know yet. Then I made one phone call, to Marcus Dillard, the lead investor she'd been chasing for months. He and I had worked on 3 deals together before she ever started her feminine wealth brand. I simply said, before you invest in her brand, Marcus, maybe wait a week. Trust me. He didn't ask questions. He just agreed. The next domino. Her brand partnership manager, aka the guy I once suspected she was a little too close with, suddenly found his inbox full of legal questions about improper accounting. By the end of the week, Madison had no idea what was happening. But the cracks had started forming. And I was just getting started. Madison finally noticed something was off when her business credit card was declined, twice, in front of a Chanel store manager she loved to name drop. She called me in a fury. You cut me off. Are you serious right now, Travis? I kept my voice even. No, Madison. I just froze any cards being used to launder business expenses through our joint accounts. You'll need to explain that to the IRS, and your brand partners. Dead silence. Then the screams. You're trying to destroy me. I hung up without another word. That was the last time I answered a direct call from her. From that point forward, all communication went through legal. Meanwhile, the audit began to uncover even more. Sponsorship funds she never reported. Employee payments made in cash. And worst of all, her brand's top philanthropy campaign, turns out, the donations never made it to the charity. They were rerouted, into a shadow LLC registered in the Cayman Islands. Under her name. That crossed the line from messy to criminal. Vanessa leaned across her desk. We have enough here to ruin her reputation. Press charges, too, if you want. But I wasn't in this for jail time. I wanted what she took from me, status, respect, and control. So I gave her one option, sell her brand's rights and step down, or I'd release everything. To the press, the feds, and her beloved followers. I emailed the offer. No subject line. No greeting. Just, step down or I burn it all. Madison didn't respond right away. Not that day. Not the next. But by day 3, I knew the pressure was working. Her Instagram was quiet, too quiet. Normally, she posted twice a day. Now. Ghost town. Comments were piling up from confused fans. Then came the leaks. Someone on her team must have jumped ship because screenshots started appearing on Reddit, private emails, unpaid invoices, partnerships cancelled without notice. Her pristine image. Crumbling. She finally cracked. Vanessa received a formal response from Madison's lawyer. My client is willing to relinquish ownership of the company in exchange for discretion and financial leniency. Translation, she was giving up. I agreed, on one condition. The brand would be sold to one of my holding companies at a fire sale price. She'd walk away with nothing but her name. And that's exactly what happened. Within a week, Femvesti was under my control. The logo stayed. The mission stayed. But the face? Gone. I replaced her with a Harvard-educated finance expert. Someone credible. Smart. Actually qualified. Madison. She disappeared from the public eye. Rumors swirled, rehab, Paris, hiding in the Hamptons. I didn't care. The headline said it all, influencer CEO steps down amid scandal, brand acquired by private equity group. They didn't know the private equity group was me. And I wasn't done yet. Because while she lost her empire, I was about to launch mine. With Madison's scandal behind me and her brand in my pocket, I turned my focus back to what mattered, Coleman Capital. The hedge fund I had delayed launching because of her outburst. Now it had a story. A redemption arc. The media ate it up. Wall Street exec bounces back after public betrayal, announces bold new venture. I leaned into it. I gave a few interviews, just enough to control the narrative. I didn't badmouth her. I didn't need to. The silence was louder. Investors noticed. The ones who had hesitated after the party. They came crawling back, now more eager than ever to get in on the fund. Even Marcus, the investor I'd warned about her, called me directly. You turned that disaster into a launch pad. I'm in for $10 million. And just like that, Coleman Capital was oversubscribed within a month. But I wasn't doing this just for the money anymore. This was personal. I made a vow, I would never again let someone that close to me hold a knife behind their back. So I rewrote my playbook. Built my inner circle tighter. Hired smarter. Chose loyalty over charm. And the icing on the cake. I took Femvesti, her once flashy brand, and rebranded it entirely. New message. New mission. New audience. The irony? Madison's former fans now praised the refreshing new leadership and integrity of the brand. I built a legacy from the ashes of her ego. About 2 months after the fallout, just as Coleman Capital closed its third major deal, I received a message. Not from Madison. From her sister. She wants to talk. She's not doing well. Please, Travis, just hear her out. I ignored it. Then came an email, from Madison herself. Subject line, I was wrong. I opened it out of curiosity, not sentiment. She poured her heart out, apologies, excuses, tears between the lines. She blamed stress. Insecurity. Pressure to keep up her public image. She begged for a second chance. Not in marriage. In business. I have ideas. I want to contribute again. I know I messed up, but I've learned from it. We were always better as a team. She had the audacity to offer herself as a consultant, to the brand I now owned. I laughed out loud. This woman humiliated me, nearly destroyed my career, and now wanted a seat at the table she once flipped over in public. Vanessa saw the email and asked, "You want me to respond?" I shook my head. No. Let her sit in the silence. She needed to feel what I had felt that night, replaced, irrelevant, invisible. The party where she mocked me was her moment of power. This silence. That was mine. That a few days after I ignored her email, she made one last move. She showed up. At my office. Uninvited. Unannounced. Dressed down, makeup barely done, nothing like the polished woman who once lived for attention. Security called up. There's a Madison Coleman here to see you. I didn't answer. I let her sit in the lobby. For over an hour. Finally, I stepped out. Not into the lobby, into the glass corridor above it. She could see me. I looked down. She looked up. Our eyes locked. She stood, about to wave or say something, but I turned and walked away. No words. No closure. Just the cold, final answer she never gave me the night of that party. That was the last time I ever saw her. Since then, Coleman Capital crossed the billion-dollar mark. Femvesti became a global financial literacy platform for women, run by actual professionals. And me? I stopped chasing peace with the past. I built a future so solid it didn't need it. They say revenge is best served cold. But success? Success is the dish you serve after revenge, when there's no one left at the table who doubted you. Weeks turned into months. Madison vanished from the public spotlight completely. No posts. No press. No sponsors. But I still heard whispers. A friend in media told me she tried to pitch a comeback, a podcast, a rebranding effort, a book deal titled From Influencer to Survivor. Nobody bit. Turns out, in a world that worships image, people don't forget a public fall from grace, especially when the fall was televised in front of high net worth investors. And I didn't need to sabotage her. She'd already done that to herself. I passed a digital billboard one morning on the West Side Highway. It advertised Femvesti's new campaign, Finance Without Facades, powered by Coleman Capital. That phrase. That was mine. I came up with it during a brainstorming session with our new leadership team. It was subtle. But anyone who knew what happened, knew. She could have had a legacy. She could have had half of everything. But instead, she chose a moment of ego over a lifetime of equity. And now, she's a footnote in the success story she could have co-authored. The following spring, I hosted a private gala, the Coleman Capital Summit, at the very same penthouse where it all began. This time, there was no public drama. No unexpected speeches. No sabotage. Just powerful people. Real ones. Wall Street execs. Tech billionaires. World-class philanthropists. The room was filled with energy, potential, and respect, everything that had been ripped from me the night Madison grabbed that mic. I stood on the same spot where I once froze. Only this time, the crowd was silent for the right reason, because they wanted to hear me speak. I stand here not just as the founder of Coleman Capital, I said, glass in hand, but as proof that collapse is not the end, it's a forced beginning. The people who try to bury you never realize, they just planted the wrong man. The room erupted in applause. A few reporters later asked me if Madison was invited. I smiled. To this? No. That seat was filled long ago, by someone who knew the value of loyalty. That wasn't just a line. It was truth. Because beside me, hand in hand, was someone new. Someone who had stood by quietly in the shadows during my darkest days, never asking for attention, never mocking my pain. She didn't need a stage. She just helped me rebuild one. And that made all the difference. A year passed. I didn't think about Madison much anymore, except when her name popped up in the occasional gossip blog, attached to vague headlines like, former influencer files for bankruptcy, once famous CEO rebrands as wellness coach. She was drifting, grasping at relevance. Meanwhile, Coleman Capital had expanded into Asia, and Femvesti's education platform had just landed a partnership with Stanford. Then, out of nowhere, I received a letter. Not an email. A handwritten letter. The envelope was unmarked. No return address. But the handwriting? I recognized it immediately. It was from Madison. Inside was a single page. No dramatics. No excuses. Just this, I finally understand what I threw away. And I know now, it wasn't you I humiliated that night. It was myself. I hope one day you can forgive me, not for me, but for you. So you never have to carry the memory of what I did. I'm sorry, Travis. I truly am. There was no ask. No request to come back. No manipulation. Just the kind of honesty I once begged for, too late. I folded the letter. Placed it in my drawer. Did I forgive her? Maybe. Maybe not. But I had moved on. And that was the real victory. It's strange how life circles back. That party, the one where everything shattered, used to haunt me. For weeks, I couldn't step into that penthouse without hearing the echo of her laughter, the gasps, the embarrassment. Now. It's just a memory. A spark that lit the fuse. She tried to humiliate me. She ended up empowering me. Because what Madison never understood was this: you don't destroy a man like me with a public insult. You ignite him. Coleman Capital became more than a fund. It became a force. We funded startups that disrupted industries. We launched financial literacy programs in underprivileged schools. We helped people build generational wealth, not just flashy lifestyles. And Femvesti? It became the most respected platform for women in finance, run by women with credentials, integrity, and real stories. Ironically, Madison's name was nowhere on it. She had every opportunity to build that legacy beside me. Instead, she chose a moment of ego over a lifetime of power. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even need an apology. All I needed was to walk away. And build something so great, she'd see my name everywhere, without ever hearing my voice again.